Welcome to this video tutorial creating a PowerPoint photo album. Let's start with the definition of what photo album is. It's a PowerPoint tool, and with it you can create a presentation comprised of digital images. Now these images can be saved to a file or on a disk, but for the purpose of this tutorial I'm going to use the sample pictures that are in Microsoft. I'll demonstrate how to create a photo album, and I'm going to select one principle of multimedia learning, and with that principle, using photo album, I'm going to create a study guide or review presentation based on the principles of multimedia learning. Now, there are several principles, and after you learn how to make photo album, at some point you might be interested in making a study guide or review presentation that has several of the principles. We'll just start with one for the tutorial. Now let's think about the principles of multimedia learning. You know, they were developed by Dr. Richard E. Mayer. You might decide that you want to include multimedia principle, coherence principle. For the purpose of the tutorial, I'm going to use one principle, the signaling principle. Let's get started. Now I'll demonstrate how to make a photo album with PowerPoint photo album. Begin by opening a new PowerPoint presentation. Select Insert. Then select Photo Album, and there's a small arrow, and the drop-down reveals New Photo Album. Select that. This dialog box that opens, this is the area that you'll work in to create the photo album. Now let's begin by inserting a picture. Here you have the option to insert a picture from a file or disk. I'm going to use the sample pictures. If you hold the Control key down, you can select all of the pictures. Hit Insert. Now, notice that the last picture at the bottom, the tulips, that's what appears in the preview window. This area shows the layout of the pictures, and currently the pictures are sized to fit the entire slide. Let's hit Create to see what the pictures look like in our photo album. We'll look at it in slideshow view. Here's the title slide, and we can go back and edit this. And instantly, we have a photo album. Now, when I select the drop-down menu, notice the current photo album is referred to as Edit Photo Album. The dialog box opens. Let's change the order of the pictures. Let's put all of the flowers together. This up arrow moves tulips up. I'm going to move hydrangeas up so the flowers remain in alphabetical order. Let's keep the destinations together. There's desert. We'll move up the lighthouse. And now all the creatures, the jellyfish, koala, and penguin, they're all together. Now for the slide layout, this time, let's make it one slide, one image per slide. And notice now we have a border around the image. Let's add a frame. I'm going to add the compound frame. And you can see in the layout a small view of how that will look. And let's add a theme. Now these themes are the themes that appear when you do PowerPoint presentations, so some of them will look familiar. I'm going to select Module. It has a nice clean look that really emphasizes the images without looking too cluttered. Now I'll hit update. And this time, let's call this My Photo Album. And this module theme may look familiar to you. See, our border has been added and the flowers are now together, locations together, and the creatures are together. Let's go back into Photo Album. This time we will add captions to all of the pictures. Now there are many other things that you can do here, so feel free to play around with it while you decide exactly how you want your photo album to look when you work on your activity. I'm going to hit all pictures black and white, and let's take a look at another theme. I'll select angles, and this will give you an idea of how some of the themes, it makes it harder to actually focus in on the images. Let's take a look at this one. We're looking again in slideshow view, and it actually changes the placement on the title slide. And now, because I selected captions, each of the images has a name. You can change these if you'd like. You can edit them just like you would a PowerPoint slide. Now let's think about how we can create our principle. Remember, I said I was going to do the coherence principle. I'm going to eliminate some of these slides. I think I'll keep the lighthouse. Now, when you work on your photo album, you can do this in whichever way you'd like. But remember, the important part is to focus in on the principle that you would like to feature. I'm going to go back to that modular frame. I want the pictures to be in color, so I'll uncheck black and white, and I'm going to add another lighthouse. So I have two lighthouse images. And this time I'm going to add a title at the top of the pictures. Let's look at it in slideshow view. Now I'm going to add my principle at the top. We'll change the color. The type currently is black, so we need it to be a brighter color so there's a greater contrast. I'm going to copy the principle so I can paste it on the second slide. And this is very similar to what you would do if you were copying and pasting in a Word document or in PowerPoint. Now, the principle says people learn better when the words include clues about the organization of the presentation. Here with the word lighthouse, I'm going to add some text. I think I want to change this to a different font. And this just is to show you how many different options you have when you go to work with your slides. I'm going to pull this down a little bit so we can read the word lighthouse more clearly. We'll do the same thing on the first slide. And I like to add the notes, so I'll call this my title page. Principle 1, image 1. I'll just cut and paste this text, and we'll call this slide Principle 1, image 2. Now, let's take a look at what we have. Here's my photo album. The signaling principle says people learn better when the words include clues about the organization of the presentation. Here's how it looks without a cue about the organization of the presentation. And this insertion of the text would help someone have a much better understanding about the organization of the presentation. Now it's time for you to create a photo album. What principle of multimedia learning will you select for the activity based on what you've learned? All you need is just one principle. But remember, I encourage you to consider making a longer study guide or review presentation once you become more familiar with photo apps. This is the activity that you'll complete to demonstrate what you've learned about photo album. Now, when you submit your work, it's going to be evaluated. It'll be evaluated using a rubric. There'll be several categories. For example, your work will be evaluated based on the types of images you select and if they're relevant to the principle of multimedia learning that you are depicting. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing the photo album you create. I'm Ramona Broomer.